Hi, Baconhair Animated here. Today we're going to see how the monsters ran away from the hunters and went to the cemetery with the dead. Before watching this episode, I recommend you to check out the previous one. Link in the description. Those monsters that left the dungeon crawled out through a hatch and turned out on the surface near the gas station. There, they saw a minibus, already filled with gasoline, had stopped near the gas station store.
This minibus is big enough. We can all fit in it. Let's steal it.
The monsters agreed. When the minibus driver left the store with a bottle of Coke and got into the bus, the monsters were already waiting for him.
Hello.
They strangled the driver and threw him into the back seat. Unfortunately for them, a gas station worker saw this and immediately reported it to the police officer on duty. 2 police cars immediately drove to the gas station. When they arrived at the gas station, the police questioned the witness, who told the police everything he had seen. Meanwhile, the hunter cops in the dungeon continued to search for the monsters. But soon, the lights went out in the dungeon, and the hunters got lost. With the help of flashlights, they found a way out of the dungeon and climbed out through the hatch.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
And immediately called the police officer on duty.
Break. Operation to find monsters in the dungeon failed. The lights suddenly went out, and we got lost.
You still have a chance to fix everything. These monsters were seen near the gas station. At the moment, 2 police cars are chasing them. We think the monsters are trying to get out of the city. The hunters called their service car and also drove to the coordinates to chase the monsters. Meanwhile, the monsters noticed that the police were chasing them and began to try to break away from them at high speed. They knocked down passers-by. Other cars crashed with each other because of them and drove into trees. The police also reported everything to the police officer on duty. He reassured them and said that help was coming to them. 2 police officers lost control while chasing and crashed into a pole at high speed. The car got upside down and immediately exploded. When the monsters at the crossroads saw that they were surrounded on all sides by police cars, they drove at high speed into the window of a nearby store. The window shattered with a crash.
Oops.
Many fragments scattered in all directions and hit several visitors and shop assistants. The monsters grabbed one of the store employees and ordered him to take them to the basement. In the basement, the monsters began to look for the entrance to the dungeon, but it was not there. Then, the monsters got very angry and began to take turns hitting the store worker with his head against the wall until they killed him. When the monsters climbed back into the store, all the survivors had already fled. Now there were only dead and wounded people everywhere. Immediately, the monsters saw that many policemen, including monster hunters, had already gathered around the store. The journalists have already arrived and were in the middle of reporting on TV, radio, and live broadcasts on the internet. At the same time, ambulances stood everywhere, and doctors bandaged the wounded and provided psychological assistance to the victims. The monsters realized that they were left without hostages and that the police and hunters were already beginning to storm the store. They rushed to the service area at the back of the store, where there were company cars and cars of the store staff. But the hunters immediately saw this and opened fire on the monsters with machine guns and pistols. One monster was killed immediately. The second monster fired and killed 2 hunters, but this did little to help. All the monsters were already in the line of fire of the hunters, and they immediately opened heavy fire from machine guns. And the car caught fire and exploded. Those monsters that hid in the dungeon at the time were already in their main hall and watched with horror the death of their friends and everything that happened near the store on the monitors. The monsters were furious and shouted that they would avenge the death of their friends.
No! How dare they kill them?
They will pay for it.
At this time, Kissy Missy entered the room with a doll and dogs and turned to Huggy Wuggy.
We found a new underground tunnel that leads to the old cemetery. There, through the old crypt grave, we can quietly go out into the city.
The monsters immediately ran along this underground tunnel to enter the city and take revenge on the police. But soon they realized that they started running out of energy.
Oh no! Half of us have already been killed. And now we're running out of our life energy. What should we do?
There is one laboratory where doctors create such medicine, after which the vitality is instantly restored.
The monsters looked at each other with surprise.
I know where it is located, and I can bring you there. But there is one thing. This medicine should be taken together with the blood of living children.
Oh, hooray! Let's go!
Yes, I haven't eaten kids in a long time.
Through an underground tunnel, they entered an ancient crypt. Throughout the crypt were placed coffins with the dead. It was a family tomb. When the monsters climbed into it, the dead began to rise from the coffins. The monsters got a little worried. They thought the dead would chase them away.
What do you need? Are you looking for a medicine capable of restoring vitality? Yes, and what of it? Take us with you. We also want this magical medicine to become more powerful. Good, but only if you help us along the way.
The monsters were delighted because their army got bigger.
How can we help you? You'll have to kill our enemies, monster hunters. Excellent. We hate monster hunters too. We'll kill them with pleasure.
And they all together began to crawl out of the crypt. Once on the surface, they saw a still fresh grave. Above her mound stood a little boy and a little girl. They wept bitterly over the dead father and mother.
Oh, and here is the snack for the medicine.
The monsters immediately pounced on them and began to drink blood.
Now I see that the dead are also monsters.
A witch walked past the cemetery who just wanted to drink fresh children's blood. Huggy Wuggy saw her.
Oh yes, this is our old friend. Well, let's share the booty with her.